everybody, and welcome back. I am so excited to be here with Dr. Alan Christensen, who's a board-certified naturopathic endocrinologist who focuses on thyroid care. He's a New York Times bestselling author whose recent titles include The Thyroid Reset Diet. Dr. Christensen has been featured on countless media appearances, including Dr. Oz, The Doctors, and The Today Show. He's the founding president behind the Endocrine Association of Naturopathic Physicians and the American College of Thyroidology. So we are so honored to have him here because we are going to be talking about iodine and sea salt today. And I think you're going to be surprised by what he has to share after he did a thorough comb of the research. So welcome, Dr. Christensen.
Hey, Ashley, thanks so much for having me.
Yes. So do you want to just start out by telling us what the main differences are between sea salt and regular salt?
Well, I guess just, from the sea. So typical table salt is land mined, and also it's then refined to be pretty much sodium chloride. And you'll find a few different preservatives or anti-caking ingredients per brand, but by and large, it's primarily sodium chloride. Sea salt being a occurring product from just evaporated seawater, on the other hand, has a pretty full spectrum of all the naturally occurring minerals.
Great. Yeah, simple explanation. Thank you for that. And then what exactly is iodine and what does that have to do with sea salt versus regular salt?
Yeah, so iodine is a chemical element and it's an essential mineral. We need it for thyroid function. And kind of a funny paradox, a slight amount too much can cause thyroid disease. So too little is a problem, especially it was historically. In the modern world, many can get too much. And many with thyroid disease can see their condition improve by limiting their intake of iodine. So in considering that, salt is one rather big passive source of it.
And this is new information because our listeners have probably up until this point only heard, make sure your iodine levels are good for thyroid disease, check them regularly. So what's changed between then when they were adding iodine to regular salt because people were showing up with goiters, symptom of iodine deficiency, and now?
Yeah, so children, pediatric goiters have been endemic in areas that did have iodine deficient soils and no iodine fortified salt and only locally grown food. So that was an issue as recently as 1963 in some parts of the world. And up until 1990, there were some parts of the world that still had some level of iodine deficiency. But as of 2014, no nations did. And by 2014, we had 52 nations categorized as at risk for thyroid disease due to iodine excess. So United States, we started fortifying with salt voluntarily in some regions. That was 1924. In doing so, it was successful for lowering pediatric goiter, and thyroid enlargement amongst children. However, in the years afterward, the rate of autoimmune thyroid disease in women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s went up 26-fold. So that's the paradox, is that there's a narrow sweet spot in which all things are good. And many people can tolerate a little extra with no consequence, but they're just not the ones prone to get thyroid disease. Those that are prone to it, that little bit extra might just push them over the edge and keep their thyroid from functioning normally.
Very interesting. And what is the mechanism of action for that? Do we know?
Yeah, there's actually several proposed. So one of which is a thing called the wolff-chaikoff effect. And basically, iodine is used to form thyroid hormones. Thyroid hormones regulate the heart rate and a lot of other things. Now, if there was no backup mechanism or no brakes built into the system, a lot of iodine in the blood would just directly translate into a massive amount of thyroid hormone release. And that would stop our heart. It would be toxic. So there's a mechanism that just shuts off the thyroid whenever we get a lot of iodine in our system. That's that wolff-chaikoff effect. And we used to think that it was like a massive dose would shut it down completely. Now we know that a slight excess can slow it down slightly. And it's not all or nothing. So that's one thing that happens where extra iodine just slows the thyroid. Now, the other things that happen relate to iodine as a source of free radicals. We think about like bleach or hydrogen peroxide and how they sterilize surfaces. Iodine is similar. It's a lot like bleach. It's a very strong antiseptic. Within the body, it's carefully controlled in certain environments, and it generates large amounts of free radicals. So when there's a small amount extra of that, those free radicals can damage the proteins of the thyroid. They can break down the thyroid cells, and the damage can pull in immune cells, which can drive an autoimmune response against the thyroid.
Those are really great explanations. Thank you for walking us through those. Do you have anything more that you want to add to that piece that we haven't talked about yet before we discuss what our viewers should consider and what they could do to look into this and see if they might be having too much iodine?
Well, the exciting part, so the newer discoveries are that, yeah, only a small amount extra is needed to harm the thyroid. There's a lot of it hidden in foods that wasn't expected. Of the top 25 dietary sources of iodine in the last 2 decades, 23 of the 25 have doubled or tripled. So we're getting a lot more than we were before. Thyroid disease is on the rise. Thyroid cancers have tripled. The number of people being treated for chronic autoimmune thyroid disease has tripled. And the most exciting part of all this is that there's multiple human clinical trials showing that by doing only one thing, as in lowering iodine, thyroid disease can reverse in between 70 to 80% of people in just a couple months. So that's the cool part, is that if this has been an issue for you, it can get better. There's a good chance of it improving.
That is fascinating and so exciting because, as you probably know, in the world of thyroid health, we often see people doing all these holistic, integrative, functional approaches, and they still struggle to kind of regain their function. So, this is a great piece that I bet most of our listeners haven't heard about yet that they'll be able to look into and maybe see if they can be one of those people that can find a reversal in their health. So, thank you so much. For our viewers who think this might be an issue for them, then what do you recommend they do? Should they go get tested? Should they add up the iodine in their foods and see if they're getting too much, something else?
Yeah, so testing briefly, it's not accurate and it's not predictive. So iodine is a thing that changes quickly, and it's in the thyroid, in the urine, in the blood, but it's different in all those areas. And so there's many tests that are accurate for gauging the iodine status of a large number of people, but all of them break down when you do just one person. There's so much variation. So then the other thing is they're not predictive. So in the studies showing that regulating iodine could reverse thyroid disease, the iodine status of the participants before embarking on the diet didn't predict their response rate. So it would be inaccurate to say, "Oh, I'll do it if I'm high in iodine, this will help me." That's just not how it's played out in the studies. It's not just those who are high in iodine that can often get better, and that's again because the iodine in the thyroid is not the same as what it is in circulation. So yeah, testing is not a helpful part of that.
That's helpful to know. So, what do you recommend, Dr. Ellen?
Yeah, those with thyroid disease, to learn more easy things, they can visit invisibleiodine.com. And that just gives them more depth in this story and also talks about some of the hidden, unexpected sources. So some of the obvious sources would be like iodized salt, or sea vegetables, or iodine as a skin sanitizer. And those are all relevant, but there are many sources that people would never think of, like about a quarter of cosmetic products, even natural ones, can have high amounts of iodine that can affect someone. Many supplements can contain that. Popular versions of salt, pink Himalayan salt, can have rather high amounts. So yeah, the invisibleiodine.com, it's a free detailed docuseries that walks someone through some of those big sources and what they could do to help themselves.
Great. So, what I'm hearing the takeaway is really adding up the amount of iodine somebody is getting from food sources, from environmental factors, and then comparing it to the recommended daily amount and seeing if they're consistently going over. And then that will give them a sign that maybe they should try decreasing the amount in their food sources and the environment sources and see if their thyroid gets better. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a great point. Tricky thing is that you won't really find food lists for iodine content. those don't exist, and you won't find the amount in a lot of personal care products. So I often encourage just being aware of the big outliers and avoiding those big outliers. Uh, in terms of if we could know amounts well, it seems that about 50 to 200 micrograms is a spot to stay safe. And those with thyroid disease do better when they get below about 100 micrograms.
Great, really helpful information. So I will include the link that you just mentioned below the video, and then check out Dr. Allen's book if you want to learn more about this, the Thyroid Reset Diet. You can see it in his background, and I'll also link to his book below this video if you want to buy that and read it. So thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Allen. This is really helpful.
Been my pleasure. Thanks again for having me, Ashley, and thanks for doing what you're doing.
And everybody have a great day. I'll see you next week on Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Central Time.